Are you tired of the experts on ESPN and Fox reporting on your sports team? Do you wish there was a sports show you could be part of, or at least relate to? Well, you've come to the right place. Yo, YouTube! Welcome to the first episode of our newest show on the Comic Jon YouTube channel, Sports Society, where we break away from the comic book world to discuss the top stories of the sports world and give you our honest and sometimes passionate opinions. If you're new to the channel, please slice that like button, subscribe, submit your questions in the comments section to be read on next week's show, and most importantly, do not forget to tell your grandmother. And what better topic to kick off our first show than the Super Bowl's halftime show? I'm sorry, I forgot to let everyone know. With me is one of my greatest friends, a man I've known over 2 decades, live from Houston, Texas, Kevin Smith Jr. Kev, thanks for joining me, man. This is awesome.
Of course, brother. Of course. How was your Super Bowl Sunday?
I'm going to compare it kind of to last year's Super Bowl Sunday. I'm really just detached after the Eagles won their Super Bowl. I'm not thinking about it all day. Before the Eagles won the Super Bowl Sunday was like this 12-hour pacing experiment where you were just trying to fill your day with like shit to do so until the game starts. So I was like a lot more relaxed. I watched it over my buddy's house. What about you?
Yeah, we kind of laid low, but the Eagles game, you're trying to amuse the time, and you have such anxiety about something you have no control over, right? Zero.
It's like getting worried about bad weather.
Right.
It's just gonna happen. It was not unlike my first experience on ecstasy, Kev, where you're up really, really high, and then you just come careening down forever.
We're off the rails 2 minutes into this show.
By the way, I didn't ask you before we went on there. Oh, I was gonna say, do you need a drink? Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, awesome.
What's in there?
Tequila.
I don't know why I asked.
Were we supposed to have coffee for this?
No, not at all.
Okay. What are you drinking?
Water, but I'm smoking marijuana, so it's fine. So we're even. So right. So it was like the Eagles winning the Super Bowl. It's like to me, I'm comparing it to Avengers Endgame, where I'm like, well, we're not gonna see any excitement like this for another, I don't even know, maybe ever in my lifetime. You know, like when they won the Super Bowl, it was like that was like the culmination of my sports life.
Sure.
And I've just kind of, on this channel, I've been kind of getting back into like the comic book world, and not just reading comic books, all the news and the movie developments and the TV shows and the streaming services and all the money that is going into comic books. It just blows my mind. And you brought this up to me about maybe doing a sports show. And I think it would be interesting because you're a really big sports fan. And I'm this person who's like, am I outgrowing sports? Or am I just like shifting my interests like I do every 4 or 5 years, where I'm like really into something?
It's such a big part of our lives. And Ash and I take our trips around sporting events, and we watch sports most nights of the week. And I look at you as like this voice of reason that brings this perspective and says, what about fill in the blank? And it kind of realigns me. But
Right.
especially the way the Eagles won it, right? With Foles and the backup story and the Philly special and everything about it, right? Especially just the fact that the Patriots didn't win. Like
Right.
that's everyone's. That's why everyone
Yes.
loved this Super Bowl,
Yeah.
because the Patriots weren't there.
Right. I got to tell you, like the day of the Super Bowl, I was like, this is going to be a really good game. Like these two teams are awesome, and we haven't seen either of them in the Super Bowl in a long time, and neither of them are the Patriots.
Right. It's that simple.
I was worried though that I was going to hear, like, if the 49ers won, I was worried that we were going to hear, Brady and the Patriots didn't win the Super Bowl, but the quarterback who learned under them did.
Yeah.
I was
that's
like
such a
worried.
good plot line, right?
Yeah,
But
exactly.
Lynch, the GM of the Niners, is watching this game, and he's like builds this dynamic physical team around like running the ball, right? Look what they did to Green Bay. And then
Yes.
when they have the lead in the Super Bowl, they start passing the ball. Like they're stopping the clock. they're passing on 2nd and 5 repeatedly in the second half when they're like ahead of the chains. So
See, I got to be honest. I left my buddy's house at halftime, but I came home and I had the game on. Like, I mean, there's no way I'm not gonna like at least have the game on. But I was doing other stuff, so I didn't really analyze the play calling and the beats of the last quarter of the game. So I wasn't aware of any kind of like play calling mistakes. Is that what happened? They went from running it to just suffocating their opponents to allowing for 3 and outs.
that's my opinion. Like if you have the lead and you have a power lineup, don't you just stuff it down their throat? And don't you keep the clock moving? And I think there was a few possessions where they're first down and they run for 4 or 5 yards, and then they throw it second, throw it third, incomplete, and they're like, okay, Chiefs, try and score on us again. It's like, do you really want to give Mahomes that many chances?
Oh my gosh, that would have been my main goal of the game, is just keep Mahomes off the field.
Just bleed it out. Yeah.
And it's not like Mahomes is going to do to you what he does to every team, because, we are the Super Bowl, the NFC champion defense of the league. We should be able to maintain him a bit.
Right.
But the clock is your friend. A running clock is your friend when you have a lead against a team that came back from being down like 24-0 and then scored 50 points.
Exactly.
Well, that makes me think, dude, that team is just nasty and that they need a new coach, because they won without a coach who mismanaged.
Yeah,
they went real far with a coach that mismanaged, and they're all so young.
Clearly, like it's a team that could power through people and just got tried to get cute.
And just weren't. Yeah, they underestimated their opponent, and that's what's really cool, because Andy Reid, if he had the lead, he would have blown it. He needed his players to kind of broken play their way back into that game.
Yeah, playground. So
Exactly.
Mahomes is the perfect quarterback for him in that regard, right?
He was built in a lab specifically to do that. Guy is insane.
Side note though on Reed, I think everyone that's an Eagles fan is happy for him, genuinely.
Yeah.
I think they wanted him to win one, right?
Sure.
He's like a good guy.
I think he was awesome, and I wish we would have just kept him longer, because I don't think Doug Peterson won us a Super Bowl. Bill Cowher won his first Super Bowl with Pittsburgh in his 15th year as their coach.
Those days are gone, though, of having a tenured coach, or it's usually by your 3rd year, it's what are you doing wrong?
We're going to get to this later, but a friend of ours is now an NFL head coach, and I'm how
that's
long?
Our bonus, yeah.
Yeah, that's our bonus topic. How long is that clock ticking? But we'll get to that in a bit. Overall, my reaction to the football game is to the Super Bowl. The game itself, it was exactly what I thought it would be. It was close, and the Chiefs won. I predicted that the Chiefs were going to win, just because I just thought it was too early for the Niners. A year ago, they were horrible. They looked better last year, and then this year they were 8-0 at one point. They need to lose in the playoffs more before they can go back and win.
And as we've established, they need a new coach, because clearly we know what we're talking about.
Right. We are the experts. Like I said in the opening, we are experts. So I did stay for the halftime show, because that, after the Super Bowl, was the bigger story by far. No one was like, Pat Mahomes won his first Super Bowl. There was none of that. It was either half of the internet was like, how do you expect me to sit there with my son as these 2 Latinas shake their asses and dance on a stripper pole? I'm like, you're watching men smashing their brains into each other for 3 hours. Do these people not remember Madonna and Cher and everyone before?
Aren't we prisoners of the moment? Nothing gets recalled, right? Because even as recently as last year, Maroon 5 did it, right? And I got no problem with Adam Levine, and he's stripping down on the stage, and every woman on social media is
tatted up.
Yeah, and they're, God, he's amazing, he's so hot, all this kind of stuff. But when a woman's in a leotard, all of a sudden we're like, oh, that's trashy. She's a slut. She's a hoe. Whatever people are saying. But I think any woman that's super confident with herself didn't have a problem with it.
Right. And those were the comments that I saw that I was proud for and that I would have said if my daughter was old enough to like understand what was going on. I was like, yeah, those are some talented women right there.
Yeah.
And I mean, they weren't on stage, doing anything X-rated. They're
No.
just dancing.
They're entertaining.
And one of them's 50 and looks better than me when I was 18. And Shakira, I don't think has an age.
No, she's spectacular.
I don't think there's a record of her age anywhere. She could be like 600 years old.
She's like, the Dominican Little League teams. There are no true birth certificates of her. So,
and all the Dominicans who play in the major leagues, they're all like from 37 to 43.
They're shaving in Williamsport. They're 12 and they're shaving. And they're like, we're pretty sure he's 12.
In the dugout. Yeah.
Were Shakira and J-Lo the best athletes on the field that night?
They're certainly the wealthiest. Their performance was awesome because I knew all the words to every song they sang. And then when they were doing a song that was in a different language, it was awesome.
Did you know those two?
No, I didn't know them. I just liked them. I just like the way they sounded.
I was going to be really impressed.
No.
I didn't know how much cultural flair you were getting in Florida.
Well, I do get a lot of flair, but I don't. There may be one song that Shakira sings that's in another language, and I think it was like on loop at a Fridays when I worked there for like 3 months, so I accidentally memorized it. But I give that one of the best halftime shows I've seen in a long time, mainly because Shakira and J-Lo are just so hot, and I mean, on the bottom layer caveman, reaction to it is they're gorgeous. And how do you keep everybody watching during the halftime show? Not only do you have gorgeous women, you have gorgeous women who are awesome at what they do. And they sang songs that by accident. So yeah, exactly. I think everybody but the insecure people really enjoyed it.
100%. 100%. I know it was a big success in my house.
Your last point here, you say you're shocked to learn that Mahomes was the first winner from a Texas college. And is he from Texas or he just went there?
So I haven't looked up where he was born. Somebody I'm sure can comment on this for us, but he went to Texas Tech in Lubbock, right?
Oh, okay.
But not only that, so think of all the football that gets played in the state of Texas, right? And all the universities, Texas and Baylor and Tech. He's from Tyler. Okay, so he's a Texas kid.
Yeah.
But all the NFL guys that have come through universities in the state of Texas, and to think that no QB has ever won the Super Bowl, that's kind of weird, right?
It's very weird, but I have a theory as to why it's prevalent. Due to how big Texas is and how big football is in Texas. If you come from somewhere else and go play college at Texas, I don't think this applies to you. But because football is just huge in Texas at the high school level, so the best player at the high school level then goes to college, and it's going to be rare that he's the best player. So it's already like him going, damn, I'm not the best player anymore. When for maybe 3 or 4 years, I was like a god. So it's like this weird up and then back down that you go through. And then maybe in college, you go through the same thing. They breed players to be too good too early because it's so important so early. That's just my theory that I came up with when I was working on the lighting before the show.
That's a really interesting point. See, this is why I need your dynamic to overlay sports, because I'm just looking at it straight analytics and saying, there's great high school football here, there's great college football here, there's tons of universities. How did this never happen?
Now,
but your point is right.
And I think the reason that it's the opposite for kids down here, if you go to any Pro Bowl game, there are more kids that went to that went to Miami than any other school every single season. It's insane. It's so weird. Hall of Famers, it's like half of them are from Miami.
Right.
Because they went to this is a brutally honest reality here, but they played in football games their parents didn't come to for the most part. It's a high probability. And so it barely mattered. And then in college, they're faster than everybody because they play year round down here, and they can grow, and they have they have all this confidence, and then they go into the NFL with like no preconceived notion of pressure because they didn't grow up with it.
So you think the fact that it's so organized and regimented and 7-on-7 leagues and all that stuff that's really like financially funded through Texas is actually a hindrance?
Just my theory.
Yeah, but it makes sense.
Because it is strange that there aren't like all this long line of Super Bowl winning quarterbacks who are from Texas.
It was just such a random tidbit. So and then you look at like Ohio and Pennsylvania, right? Those are good football states, but there's multiple QBs from those.
Right.
And I'm like, how does it add up? Like it just didn't quantify, but I'm going with your theory. I think it's too much too soon, and they peak.
Right. I think it's too much too soon. It's too early. It's too important too early that like they just got to get like worn out by it. By the time they're pros, they're like, ugh, I don't know if I want to play this anymore.
I'm good.
And a good example is Johnny Manziel. I mean, I don't know if he grew up in Texas, but like he was a god. Did he grow up in Texas?
He grew up, and then I think he went to A&M, right? But I'm pretty sure he grew up in the state too. But that's another great example of like king of the world, and then he gets to the pros, and it's like, you're kind of ordinary again, right? Like the linebackers have 50 pounds on you, but they run the same speed.
I was just going to say, you're kind of 60 pounds too small. Right. I don't know how you're going to put that on in an offseason.
Not happening.
No. And since football is over, now we move on to life without football. And on the horizon, a little over a month away, the madness. And no, I'm not talking about Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. I'm talking about March Madness, my favorite sporting event, single-handedly, the most exciting creation of sports. I feel like it's in the middle of like basketball, baseball, and football. It's not every day. It's not once a week. March Madness is like, just games all over the place, like a random smattering of games that are all connected and all have this final goal to get to, to win the title.
And doesn't it just appeal to everyone? Like even the casual fan is intrigued when they go eat lunch and there's like a 16 versus a 1 and, a buzzer beater and whatever else happens. It genuinely appeals to everyone.
It is a shared enjoyment of the drama and the unpredictable drama that March Madness to the madness. I mean, it is madness, and it's so fun, and it brings people together like office pools do. Betting. Everybody does their brackets. You follow along. It's like a game that you play with the game. And I used to always love basketball tournaments. When I was a kid, like playing in them. And I don't know what the fuck is going on in the NCAA this year. Other than, wait, who's the best team? I don't even know.
I think it's a crazy year because the number ones just keep getting slammed. Like it's one of those weird years where something like 7 or 8 different number ones, right? At the time of us recording this, I think Baylor's still the number one. Would you have seen that? Baylor.
I would have never guessed that.
No.
In 64 tries.
They look like a really good team. They're getting their orange slices ready for the tournament, and they're going to go from there. I always think of
Ant-Man now. Does anyone have any orange slices? Baylor. Now, weren't they like kind of relevant, and haven't they been sort of relevant in the last 10 years?
Yes. It's a legit program, but don't you kind of like parallel them with a Nova? Like Villanova should not be as good as they are every year. It's a small school. It's a small private school. But I think the field is more leveled in basketball. Because one player can impact you so much.
And I was just going to say, are they, it's not one and done, right? You got to play 2 years.
No, it is one and done.
It's one and done. Right. Yeah. So it's like no one's establishing any sort of like gel amongst players.
No.
It's just like everyone's just their first year, and it's like a whole bunch of pickup games. So Baylor could win. Baylor could be good.
I didn't know if you were looking at the rankings. I think you got like Gonzaga up there. Which Gonzaga? That's another one.
Would they win already?
Just get it over with, right?
I
It's like
mean,
20 years where they're supposed to.
it was like they were always the team that made it that no one knew, and their name was really weird. So you kind of liked them, Gonzaga.
How
It's like,
long until you actually knew where that school was?
still not. Is it California or New York? Where is it?
It's in Washington, but that's
The state?
yes.
Oh my
Yeah.
God. That's insane. I thought it was for sure in like a very highly populated place.
Based on how much you're watching college hoops this year, do you have a prediction for who's going to win?
I'm just looking at the rankings right now. Sorry.
Is that right? It's Baylor one?
Baylor, Gonzaga, Kansas, San Diego State. San Diego State. Wow. Louisville, Dayton. Dayton is number 6.
The Flyers.
Duke is number 7. The Florida State 8, Maryland 9, and Nova 10. Nova's just because their coach.
Shay Wright.
He's like, I don't know. He's like a master communicator, I think.
He's the best. He's the coolest cat, isn't he?
I know. So handsome. He looks like he could be in like a 1950s, like, noir film, but he's like the coach of the future.
Right. You just like plopped him right out of like an old casino, and he just like walks from black and white onto a color court.
And he goes, bam, and we hit the 3 and Villanova wins. I'm going to say, dude, okay, Gonzaga is 23-1. I'm just going to randomly pick them because I have no clue. I only pay attention. I'm going to start paying attention. Like I usually start paying attention around February because
Of course.
it doesn't really matter. I hate all the rotating, and it's like, okay, who's going to get hot? Was it UConn?
It was UConn, and it was Kemba Walker.
I was waiting till I saw you in person to talk to you about this. But since we're doing the show, I think it's a great time to bring it up. You are, and your family and everyone are huge Louisiana State University fans, and they were above and beyond the best team this season. There was no question. We watched their first game of the season, where I forget who they beat. So I just paid attention to them all season, and they never lost, right?
No, 15-0.
You could just tell it wasn't like a lot of these Final Fours have been interesting,
Right.
I mean, Clemson upsetting Alabama, Ohio State upsetting Alabama, basically when Alabama lost, it was exciting.
It was a big deal.
And this year, them getting ousted in the first round was amazing. But I was like, I think LSU is just going to push around whoever they play because this quarterback seems like he's from the pros.
Yeah,
Like
he's
he
on
got
another
held
level.
back. Yeah. What's his name?
Joe Burrow.
Joe Burrow. And so what did you do? I mean, tell me your experience. Where were
I
you?
mean, what a season, right? And like you said, I mean, it's a special connection for our whole family being
Yeah.
from South Louisiana and going to we had season tickets when I was 8 years old. So I mean, we would go to every game and
Oh my God.
as much as I do that like the pageantry of college football just can't be beat. Like spending a whole day on a campus and the bands and the cheerleaders and the food and everything about it, right? And you never really lose that. And so that this season just seemed different. And even
Yeah.
week by week by week, like that anxiety to win, I didn't really even understand the magnitude of what they were doing until the end. And I kind of like digested it and went, dude, they went 15-0 and they beat Texas and Oklahoma and Georgia and
They
Florida and
whipped
Auburn and
everyone's
Clemson
ass.
and yeah,
They
and
had like
just
one close game.
and they made it seem like with such an attitude too. Like they had such a swag about just we are actually better. Like it was like they even said it before, during, and after, and
Yeah.
and it just it was a really badass season for us. And I don't know if I've come down yet. And we actually taped every game this season. Shout out to Ash for thinking to do that. So if they suck next year, we're just going to rewatch, week by week and relive the season.
Midway through the season, you're like, all right, let's just put on week
Let's go
6
back to
of
Burrow.
last year. Is he entering the draft?
Yeah, he's done. So he'll probably be a top couple pick. I mean, most likely the number one. I mean, his processing speed of reading the defense and finding the guy just does not seem normal in college, right?
No, he was way above. And the fact that they just stomped everyone, because like you said, like, yeah, the anxiety, and because LSU's a winning program. I mean,
Sure.
they're always close. They're always in the top 10. And I would have, if I were you, been like, yeah, well, okay, we start every season like 6-0, 7, and then we take a dump to a semi good team.
Or
And then
Bama beats us
right,
or you know.
or towards the end of the season, someone big pushes us out. I felt like as your friend watching them, I was kind of waiting for them to do that. And I'm like, wait a minute. They won every game by like a lot, but they won every game. And they pushed Ohio State around, right? That's who they played first.
Oklahoma.
Or Oklahoma. Oh
Oklahoma.
my.
Yeah, that game was over in 2 minutes. A bloodbath.
I don't know why Oklahoma gets all this love. They've sucked forever. They're like one of these old school, programs that like wish a Saban would come back and resurrect them out of the ground,
Right.
because they're always like around it, and then they just get flattened, a bowl game or an actual playoff game.
Yeah,
And,
it's
and LSU just stomped all over them.
that was, I mean, it was beautiful as a fan, but I got to believe the casual fan was watching that like with very low entertainment value.
Yeah, I was just happy that like it was over early, so I was like, oh, well, they won. I don't have to worry about it.
Yeah. And it was cool too because there's so many people all over the country that just randomly would call and text and kind of jump on the LSU train this year. And it was a fun team to watch. Like they weren't
Dude,
just doing it casually to be my buddy. They were like, dude, this is a team I can get behind.
when you have a friend who likes a team that you just didn't grow up rooting for, and they're doing like above and beyond good, you kind of reach out to them and you're like, yo, I bet you're like in a good mood more often right now, aren't you?
Right, right.
I love that.
So now that that football is done though, what else do you bridge the time with before the madness starts?
Well, I went to go see Birds of Prey and the fantabulous emancipation of Harley Quinn, starring Margot Robbie and Ewan McGregor last night. And within 15 minutes of the movie starting, it was a lot of fun. It was like Deadpool. It was like funny, violent,
Right?
drug use. It was great. All of a sudden, the screen goes black. All the lights in the actual movie theater go black. And this woman comes in and goes, "We need to evacuate the building immediately." So I was like, is there a shooter here? Like, what the fuck is going on? And we walk out of the theater and into like, the lobby, like where the food is and everything. All the lights are out. We walk outside the building, all the lights in the parking lot and all the mall lights are out. Like it looked like zombie apocalypse at nighttime. It was like everything. It was a massive power outage. So we had to leave. Building was shut down. I didn't get to see
That's it. You got 15 minutes.
15 minutes. So luckily I can go back and bring my stub and get a thing. But I'm looking forward to seeing movies whenever I get a free 2 to 3 hours in the weekend. I usually go and check out a movie, do a review on the channel, just
Of
because
course.
I don't know what it is lately. There's just a bevy of really good movies coming out and already out in the theater.
Do they time it purposely? Like when they know that there's more eyeballs available? I mean, obviously football's a major consumption of male, time during the fall. So do you think they release the movies strategically like that?
This is why they thought that this is why everyone was so surprised by Bad Boys, because it came out in January and they called January the dump month. It's where you dump all the movies that you don't really expect to do good and just get them out of the way. And
Right.
it did really well because, like you said, it's playoff football. No one's going to the movies on a Sunday or Saturday now
Right. Right.
because playoff football.
What about like streaming shows? What are you guys watching? What are you binging right now?
We are going. We just finished The Affair on Netflix, or I mean on Showtime.
No, I know what it is, but I haven't watched it yet.
Man, like, okay, this show starts off and it's impossible to stop watching. It's just so scandalously drama. It's just and it's top notch acting. The cast is top notch. Maura Tierney, Joshua Jackson, aka Pacey from Dawson's Creek, the guy from The Wire. I never remember his actual name, but it's a great cast, amazing cast. And then it starts to like stumble over itself in like the third and fourth season. And
Right.
then in the fifth season, dude, there is a string of 5 episodes that is the most woke, fist up the ass messaging and symbolism. It's like every woke subcategory is like just opened up and like, let's talk about this and be uncomfortable. But then in the last 2 episodes, it wraps it up and it makes it like one of my favorite like shows as an entire series ever.
So
Like,
isn't that a sign of a good series though, when you have the full gamut of emotion? Like you're
yes.
not just happy for 5 seasons and then
No.
you're like, oh well, that felt good. No, like
Right.
I actually want to get a little bit of anguish. Like I want to like be a little unnerved sometimes when I finish a season, right?
Not to jump all around, but that was why I think the movie Jojo Rabbit is like just I don't know how a human brain comes up with what that movie does. You're making us angry and scared and laughing and crying in that order, like just over and over and over for like 2.5 hours. And then the gut punch at the end, the shoes scene. If you haven't seen it, when you do see it, you'll know what the shoes scene is. But yeah, right. That's what I want. I want like almost to be like, what are these writers doing? And then it's such a payoff when they tie it all back up.
Sure. And I actually want to stop myself at times and say, holy fuck, somebody had to write this. Like we take that for granted, right? Like how mentally capable or demented are they, you know, evil
Yes.
genius, whatever you want to call it, to
Right.
create some of this shit. Have you seen Vikings?
Dude, and just to talk about how hard it is to write, like the final like script that they like read and film and that we watch is probably like the 18th version of that one script for that one episode. Like that's crazy.
All the
And there,
tweaking.
and there's 10 of them every year. Vikings, I watched. Yes, I have seen Vikings, Kev. What about you? I just finished watching Dracula on Netflix. It's 3 episodes. They're an hour and a half each, and it starts in 79, and it ends today. It's only a handful of characters, and I don't know a lot about Dracula, but there's a lot of like names and words that you would hear in this show that you kind of recognize,
Hmm.
and they kind of use that for like a really cool storyline. Like you'll get it if you ever watch it. Like you'll understand what I'm saying. It was the first episode's crazy. The second episode's good. Third episode's awesome. But the first episode, it sucks you in. But stay with it because it's a great payoff at the end.
We'll put that on the queue.
Yeah.
Soon as we unspoil Vikings, we'll do it.
Uh,
Oh, it's okay. What are the odds people are going to watch this?
no, I'm just gonna edit it out. It's no big deal. Now, do we have anything else on March Madness? No life with football, life without football. Even though in like a month or two the draft comes up, that's like
Yeah, there's more stuff. There's
a
pro
little
days and
fluff, right?
yeah, there's stuff there. But I think we're onto something that we'd be remiss if we didn't discuss this week. A guy from
Right,
Lower Marion High School,
right,
right in our neck of the woods.
right.
Um, the untimely passing of Kobe, right?
So Kobe was like 2 years older than me, or yeah, like just about 2 years older than me. And I remember when he took Brandy to the prom, because I was like 2 years away from my prom, and he was like this kid, awesome basketball player, taking Brandy, who at the time was like almost Beyonce level famous.
Sure.
I mean, it seemed like she was headed that way. I just always thought he would be alive as long as I was. Like I thought, like I wonder what Kobe will be up to when he's like 80. Like I bet you he'll still look young and like look like he could play. And then I think I got that like a text from someone, and I was like, well, that's fake news. And then I went to TMZ and their site was down. So I was like, okay, that's definitely fake news. They reported it and now they're learning that they're wrong. So they took it down. And then all of a sudden, like all these on Google, like all these pages, like I just searched Kobe Bryant and all these news things just kept popping up. Variety, The Hollywood Reporter, all these like reputable trades were reporting it as a fact. I was more like stunned and like upset than I ever thought I would be if you ever asked me, like, what do you think you'll feel like if Kobe Bryant all out of nowhere dies tragically, beyond tragically? And I was like, well, that would suck, but like I don't know him. But like I did know him in a way that he gave me excitement for like 20 fucking years. And I went from hating his guts as a basketball player to him being like my second favorite of all time. And I think he is the second greatest of all time. I think it was like Kobe was a Jordan clone. I mean, if anyone watched Kobe Bryant, there was like this massive chunk of the year where he was so much better than everybody else playing. It was ridiculous. And it was relevant that all the players that were like supposed to be at Kobe's level were like dogging it. They were like taking the day off. Kobe worked harder than anyone.
And played defense all year, which you never see in the NBA.
My favorite moment in the NBA ever when Kobe played the Orlando Magic in the finals. It was his first time playing without Shaq in the championship, and they whipped their asses in like 5 games, or they maybe even swept them. I can't remember. But Kobe was unstoppable. And you could see it on his face, and I call it the Kobe face. It's like when you get so mad, you stick out your bottom chin. And because every time Kobe would shoot make a basket, he'd run back on defense. He would stare at the Magic like this. Like, I am going to eat you alive if you try to like beat me in this. I am going to win my first title alone and no one's stopping me. Go on YouTube and check out him because he was vicious. And that's the Black Mamba. That's like he is just going to bite you and you're going to die.
It was his will or his hatred of losing. I think that defined him, right?
Yes.
It wasn't like I'm a winner. Anyone. He just hated losing that much. And that's what you were seeing when you make that mouth is just how much he despised the loss of anything, right? So when he passed, we started watching a bunch of videos that night and looked up. If you haven't done this, look up his last game in Staples Center. And he's like, athletically, he's not the freak show anymore, right? It's it's the twilight of his career or whatever you want to say, right?
He has like knee replacements from Italy.
Right. Yeah. He's the first to get like some serum and plasma and stuff that we still don't have here. But
deer antler.
Yeah. Yes. But look up that game and I think, don't hold me to the specifics, but it's like the last 3 minutes of the game and he just pours in like 15 points or something to bring them back and win. And you just see with every bucket that old Kobe coming through like, hey, for one more time, we're just going to plow through. And it's all mental. It's all mental, even though there's guys 10 years younger than him guarding him, right?
Yes.
I don't know if you felt this way. Like Jordan was my one. He was my number one, right?
Yeah. It's not even close.
But okay.
Kobe's like not even close.
But we've always heard like everyone's trying to find the next Jordan and they're always doing the whole Jordan LeBron thing, right? Like it's nauseating. We've lived that whole thing, right, through our adulthood. Kobe didn't necessarily get that comparison because he was still like this unique being. Like I'm not saying he's Jordan, but he was still like Kobe.
Yes.
Like why did he avoid the
wow.
constant comparisons?
I think because he had Shaq, so they wouldn't even give him that. But then he went on and did it by himself, so it was kind of, well, not by himself, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But you're right, man. I think Kobe was so great that it was like, well, no, he's not the next Jordan. He's just like something new. Like
simply Kobe.
We're going to be looking for the next Kobe.
Right. It was a weird situation though, but really sad. And I strangely was upset too. And I don't want to say that to make any light of the situation for all the people that did have to personally deal with it. But I agree with you that it was a weird parallel. Like we just felt like he was our contemporary, right? Like
Yeah, yeah,
we
yeah,
watched him in high school going through the stuff we were going through. I mean,
yeah.
Brandy turned us down, but that's fine. I mean, we asked.
Maybe one of the only athletes who I started as a fan, as an immature person. I was like a teenager and I despised him, especially with him and Shaq just could not be stopped for 3 years in a row. I was just like, God, I hate him.
Right.
And then he scored 81 points in one game. He won by himself. And like I just talked about, when he just by himself beat the Orlando Magic. And then when they played against the Celtics and they went 7 games and Kobe passes the fucking ball as time is expiring to none other than wide open Ron Artest, aka Meta World Peace.
Right.
And he drains a 3 to fucking win the game. And Kobe's 5th, so now he has more rings than Shaq. And that was the first thing he said at the conference. One more than Shaq. I'm so upset. Even these videos that you're talking about, I'm not like there yet. I'm like mourning him very slowly. Like I'm not like, if I watch anything, like any of these videos, even the video of Shaq crying on TNT, I can't watch it. Like I see the headlines and I'm like, nope, because I'm going to bawl. And it's strange, but he just gave you so much enjoyment. You can't help but feel. And here's the thing, man, I was just looking forward to what else he was going to do. He was 41. He had a 20-year NBA Hall of Fame career. And he had an entire life ahead of him. 40 years. He was only 40.
And you knew he was just going to be awesome at anything. Like every endeavor he made, you knew he was going to be great. Like wasn't he just crushing little kids basketball, like coaching his daughter's team and like punking people? I mean, the guy was just going to be phenomenal at everything. Film, movies, like he had probably, this transcendent career waiting ahead of him, right?
And then there's all the people that are mad about, all you're talking about is Kobe. There was other people dead in that helicopter. I'm like, yeah, well, when those other two win 2 championships without Shaq, then I'll be sad for them. Yeah. Well, when they score 81 in a game.
Right. Then we'll do an episode about them.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. But yeah, man, it's just horrible. And I was like telling Heather, I'm like, I feel like I want to honor him in a way that's like visible. And I'm not talking about like get a tattoo or whatever, but like I want to buy a Kobe jersey. Like I want to show that like, oh man, I was a fan of this guy as a person.
And it's not just like you liked Kobe as a person or all this. I love the fact that, how we were talking about shows or movies that run you through the emotions, right?
Yeah.
Like the way you hated Kobe, like that's a plot line. He was your villain. Like he literally was your villain.
Yes.
And he like works his way through this. And then his second act, he's doing it solo. And all of a sudden you're like, I love you. Like
I can't deny greatness. Like, how can I say he sucks? How can I say I hate him? He's the best at what all these other guys are doing. He's the best at it.
Those other guys are pretty good too.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, but he's making them look so inferior.
A superhero amongst humans. Rest in peace, Kobe. Speaking of our childhood, that brings us to our bonus topic of the show. And we mentioned it earlier about how coaches have like about a 6-second window of life to win a Super Bowl, or they're out on their ass back to the college league or the Browns. The New York Giants are NFC East rivals. Well, I would say I hate the Cowboys more than the Giants.
Sure.
And I think less of the Redskins than the Giants. Like
this makes perfect sense.
The Redskins just don't matter.
No.
They never have. They never will. They're maroon, and they're called the Redskins. Joe Judge, we grew up with. Like I knew him from 5th grade to I've known him since fifth grade. We played together. We played football together. He was the quarterback. I was a tight end. We were like really close. And then we eventually went to high school together.
Kind of a crazy, surreal thing, though, right? To watch that guy doing a press conference leading the New York Football Giants, right? That's weird.
The capital of the media fucking world. And this guy comes from the shadows of Bill Belichick and Nick Saban, where no one knew who he was, but he's learning from like, Master Yoda. Like he's learning from the most intelligent football minds, in my opinion, ever.
Sure.
Bill Belichick and Nick Saban. I don't know how they do it. I don't know. It's a sport that's so hard to be consistent, and they're the most successfully consistent coaches in both college and pro.
And not only are they consistent, they're consistently evolving. Like that's the part that blows my mind. Like Saban plays power football and this straight 3-4 defense, and then the SEC changes, and he's going spread with Tua. And it's like
a guy who can throw bombs.
Yeah, and it's just like he's constantly evolving to be the best. And Belichick, it's almost week to week. Like one week they look like a power I team, and the next week they're throwing like two tight end sets out in seams, and then they're going four wide, and then they're so good. So he's been taught everything possible, right? Like he's got such a chance of success.
I remember in sixth grade, it was just everything he talked about. That's all we did was talk about football. We played football. We talked about it. We watched it. We rewatched our games. My dad would videotape them. And I remember talking to his sister around this time when I heard he got injured, like his freshman year of college. And I was like, oh, what's he going to do? Like, he just keeps getting injured. And she's like, well, he's not going to do anything else. He's always going to do football. It just might not be as a player. I was like, oh, yeah, duh. He'll just be a coach because he's such a – he was like a – I don't think he was a honor society or anything like that, but he was he got really good grades, like even in high school. He was a brain.
Yeah, he was a sharp guy. And you don't – the guys that we were just commending, I mean, you don't last with guys like Saban and Belichick unless you're a total football nerd. Like you have to be able to break down so many schematic things to even be in the same room as those guys.
And to think your promotion, you're like, wait a minute, I work for Nick Saban. I'm going to get promoted to what? Bill Belichick.
Bill Belichick.
So not everyone knows that, like the mainstream media, they don't know that. They don't know. I mean, like they know it, but it like wasn't a big deal. Like I thought that would have been like the headline, like Saban Belichick wonder kid takes over New York, whatever. He's going to surprise people. If coaching matters, then the New York Giants will become a winning football team.
Yeah.
If Joe Judge doesn't win with the Giants, then coaching doesn't matter in sports at all because he should be a successful coach.
I love that proclamation. And he's got Danny Dimes, right? He's got a young quarterback. He's got your boy Barkley from Penn State. I mean, there's talent on that team
I'm gonna be a Giants fan. Since
it's
I'm
inevitable. We're stuck. We're stuck.
I can't not root for him.
And then, like, how many cool plot lines do we have under the surface? So you've got your kid from Philly, right? Like an Eagles childhood, right?
Yeah, but he was never an Eagles fan.
No, but it's still that
right,
cultural thing.
Yeah.
And then he hires an OC that was pushed out of Dallas in Jason Garrett, right? Which is another NFC East team. So, like, how many little nuances do you have with this team that they're just going to walk around and be saying fuck you to everyone in the NFC East?
Well, I think that was probably the smartest move because you want someone who plays the Eagles and the Redskins twice a year, or someone who, pardon me, you want someone with experience playing against those defenses, especially with that young offense that he has. Gosh, it's perfect, man, but it's going to suck. They're going to kick the Eagles' ass for like the next 10 years. So that's why I'm going to become a Giants fan.
I fear you're right. And it's I like the Garrett move too because you bring in another ex-head coach, right? So if there's like days where Judge is sitting there going, I'm not exactly sure. Like I want to bounce an idea off somebody. Let me talk to my OC who ran a team for 10 years. Like I just think that's a safety blanket too. It's pretty cool. So
Yeah. Good call. I
we
didn't even think about that.
should we should find a way to go to New York this fall, see a game, and do an episode with our boy Joe Judge.
Wow. Wow. That would be quite a get. I've
Right?
I've asked him to come on my podcast, and I think he said he would do it. He's like, when things settle down, because it was like a week after he won his first Super Bowl. It was like, hey, you want to come on my podcast? I'm sure nobody else is calling and bothering you.
Right. So things are certainly calm now that he's in New York City. So I'm sure he has time.
Just have to give him time. He's so young. The team is so young. They're not going to become champions in 3 years. It's just not going to happen.
No, but I think he's going to do well. I'm with you. Like if coaching means anything at professional ranks,
Yes.
then he'll be fine.
Yes, because in my opinion, he's one of the most just hardwired. Like there isn't anything about football that he hasn't like thought about
Or lived.
or experienced himself. Right. So, and I know he's only done more under the tutelage of Belichick and Saban.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So kudos to Joe though. That's really
Yeah,
cool.
man. Good luck, man. I'm gonna be rooting for you, and it'll be cool to see you on the sidelines. I want to get at least I want to do like a prediction, like how many headset throws. Like, will he do the headset throw if they lose? Like, how will he express his anger? Because Judge gets furious. Like he can fly off the handle. Like he's got a crazy temper when it comes to football.
So over under how many headset throws in his first season?
I'm gonna say two.
Two. Okay.
Two.
I'll take the over, and
Okay.
and the second prop bet is at any game during the season, does he wear the Belichick cutoff hoodie, like the sleeveless hoodie?
Yeah, what will he wear? I feel like I picture him in like a hoodie, but not a cutoff one, just
Not
like a regular one.
Yeah.
That would be awesome, though. I wish I was still friends with him because I would call him and tell him to do that. I'd be like, yo, you got to do like the hoodie and like Belichick honor.
But just so I win this bet with Smith.
Yeah, right. Or it's like we'll just tell him things to do that we know the media will talk about.
Right. And then we're talking about it on this show that 50 people watch.
Right. Hey, 54.
I'm sorry. There'll be 100
if-
by next week.
If you got anything else, Kev, we should probably wrap up here. Next week, we can do a little preview of what we're going to get into. The NBA is in Chicago for the All-Star game. Do we still need All-Star games? Seems like just a bad opportunity for one of your favorites to get hurt. Michael Vick's 30 for 30. I still have not watched it, but I really want to. I hear great things. And if you don't remember, he was an Eagle during his redemption arc.
Sure.
So I can't wait to see that. And anything else?
We may touch on
Anything
spring training baseball. I mean, do you want to hit on that?
Oh,
We're
yeah,
kind of coming up
spring
on that,
baseball.
right?
Yeah. After a very disappointing season, after the Phillies looked like they could make the playoffs and stumbled at the end to the Braves, who got launched in the fucking play-in game. What are they going to do? Did they add anything? I know they did, but who did they add? Maybe we'll look at that.
And can Aaron Nola pitch every day?
Yes.
But and when we kind of goof off with baseball, I mean, we got to talk about the sign stealing bullshit, right? Don't go too far into it. We'll save it for next week.
Yeah, I have. That is something that I was like, so what is the big story in sports, thinking about tonight's show? And I was like, well, the Astros, that whole thing, that people are still making jokes about that.
Sure.
And then I like remembered what happened there. And yeah, we need to like get into that because it's not as we'll get into it. Thank you everyone for watching. Kev, thank you so much for joining me. We will see you next week. We gotta go. Oh, hey. Make sure to like and subscribe and leave a comment and hit the notification bell. And if you're finding me for the first time, I do trailer reaction videos, hot take movie reviews, news briefs on anything Marvel, DC, Star Wars. You'll love it. Thanks.